Production has now spread to other regions of the world capable of fulfilling the vanilla plant's demands. 2 to 3 years after planting, when the vanilla plant begins to produce flowers, hand pollination is carried out. The flower's male and female organs are separated by a membrane, which makes natural pollination by insects impossible. Man must therefore gather pollen from each flower in order to ensure the production of pods. Pollination is carried out every day from 6 a.m. till 2 p.m. Using a needle or stylus, the matchmaker rips the membrane separating the male organ, the anther, from the female organ, the stigma, and presses them between her fingers. Several days later, a fruit embryo begins to appear. The bunches of pollinated fruits will gradually produce what are called brooms, or clusters of pods. The pods generally reach maturity after 6 to 9 months. In order to avoid their theft from the fields, in Madagascar the green pods are frequently tattooed. Each producer applies their own mark without, of course, altering either the pod's quality or aroma. When the pods are sold in the village market, the vanilla is checked by the village authorities in the presence of the police. After the harvest, a long preparation period begins when the vanilla is meticulously prepared for sale and export. This treatment process consists of no less than 8 stages and requires very specialized skills. The first step is to sort through the pods, separating them depending on their maturity. Each batch will then undergo a session of dipping, the length of which is based on their maturity. Generally, the vanilla's dipping lasts for an average of 3 minutes at 60 degrees Celsius, but the hot water bath varies depending on the state of the pods. If the mature vanilla is soaked for 3 minutes, the batches of cracked vanilla will only be soaked for 2.5 minutes. Immature vanilla is dipped for about 3.5 minutes. Throughout this dipping process, the water is continuously stirred in order to keep the temperature consistent. The vanilla, while still hot, is then quickly placed in an insulated chest for 24 to 48 hours. In order to undergo a process called sweating. The pods, encased in covers, will lose water and take on a chocolatey color. Once the sweating period is over, a new stage called sun-drying may begin. Every morning, as the sun's heat grows, the pods rolled in their covers are taken out of their chests and put onto trays. The covers are opened so that the exposed vanilla is given a maximum amount of sunlight. This process exposes the pods to the sun for several hours a day in order to dry them out and especially to reheat them. Once warm, they are replaced inside the insulated chests until the next morning. This airing and reheating optimizes the enzymatic activity necessary for the progressive formation of vanillin. This way, the natural vanilla pod gradually acquires its aroma and flavor. During this daily exposure, the vanilla pods are divided up. Those that appear to be dry enough, based on their texture and aspect, will then be moved on to the next phase, shade drying. The vanilla is slowly dried, placed on trays in the shade for almost a month. This process is called shade drying. Once again, the vanilla is separated into groups every day. First, they are straightened by hand, meaning stretched out. Then they're separated into different categories based on color, red or black, type, cracked or not cracked, and their size. In most workshops, the vanilla is still grouped using the colonial system. After measuring with a ruler, the pods are arranged by size and placed into the appropriate compartment. In other workshops, experienced workers prefer to evaluate the vanilla by feeling and comparing their lengths, then removing the chosen pods by hand. Raffia, a natural, inexpensive material readily available in large quantities, is currently used by all vanilla workshops. It is ideal for the multiple binding and unbinding necessary for making perfect bunches. Once the pods are divided, based on length and color, they are tied together using the raffia. Once tied, the vanilla must mature in a box. This last phase of the procedure is very important for the development of the vanilla's aroma and usually lasts from 6 to 9 months. The boxes are then lined with wax paper and filled with the raffia-tied bunches sorted by length. During this refining process, it is essential to frequently inspect the boxes, to check the pod's aroma and humidity levels, and to avoid problems with mold. One of the most important and delicate steps in the preparation process, this stage requires all the talent and experience of the men and women who carry it out. Much like the refinement of a great vintage, they must take their time and use their senses, watching, smelling, and following their instincts with absolute rigor. After 9 months of box refining, the vanilla attains its optimum amount of vanillin. Its aroma and flavor are at their prime. Some exceptional batches are covered in frost, which is simply the crystallization of vanillin on the surface. Traditionally, the raffia ties are then replaced with more resistant nylon ties. This manipulation is, in itself, a highly specialized skill. We can admire the grace of each movement, the dexterity, and the speed with which the vanilla workers master every one of these precise movements. Finally, before being exported, the vanilla is traditionally sorted based on length and quality into aluminum boxes padded with wax paper. And so continues the ancestral culture of this unique orchid, the result of an enormous amount of traditional know-how, along with the new techniques. Vanilla is, to this day, the most widely sold flavoring in the world.